In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to remove late payments from your credit report, step by step. In fact, what I'm about to share with you is exactly what credit repair companies charge an arm and a leg for. I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can, because I don't want to take your hard-earned money on something that should be completely free to help you fix your credit. All I ask of you guys is to give this video a like, and maybe even a share, because everything in this video is what most people should know before paying anybody to repair their credit. What's up, winners? My name is. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, we talk all about personal finance and credit. Start now by subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos. So in this video, I'm going to try to break things down as simply as I possibly can. But if you still need some step-by-step help, feel free to contact me for consultation. So now let me explain who this is exactly for. This can really help anyone, but individuals who have less than good credit will benefit from this the most. I would say anyone with a 720 or less. Each point on your credit score can have a dramatic effect whenever you're trying to get a loan, getting a new credit card, and also your interest rates. One of the simplest ways to increase your credit score over time is by removing inaccurate or unfair late payments. This can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars when you need financing. So before I actually go over the steps, I'm going to give you guys a quick breakdown of what a late payment is and why it hurts your score, so you guys have a better understanding of how this all works. What is a late payment? First off, a late payment is a negative mark that shows up on your credit report when you don't make your payment on time. If you guys ever miss a due date by 30 days or more, usually this results in a late payment being reported to the credit bureaus, and this will have a dip to your credit score, sometimes for months or even years before it improves on its own. For late payments, they can usually stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. Once that time passes, they would automatically be removed from your credit report, and lenders will no longer use them the same way in their decisions. For a late payment to actually be valid, it requires accurate reporting from the creditor. But make no mistake, there have been times when people were marked late by mistake, payments were applied incorrectly, or accounts were reported late when they should not have been. The majority of times, when you do have 1 or 2 late payments, the credit bureaus just leave them there, unless you challenge them. But there are some mistakes that happen on your credit report, where late payments remain there even though they are inaccurate, outdated, or unverifiable, which in turn will bring down your credit score. These are the perfect items to go after. What is positive payment history now? Let's move on to positive payment history. This is the type of account activity that helps your credit score. The most simple example of positive payment history is when you pay your credit cards, loans, or other accounts on time every single month. The main reason why positive history matters is that lenders want an idea of whether you can be trusted to pay back money on time. There are also times when you're trying to rent an apartment or apply for a new loan, and a strong payment history can make a major difference. If you guys ever sign up for any app like Credit Karma or your own bank provides you with a FICO score, you'll often see payment history listed as one of the most important factors. So hopefully by now, you guys have a better understanding of what the difference is between a late payment and strong payment history. So now let's get right into exactly how you remove late payments from your credit report. How to remove late payments. So the first thing you guys need to do is get a copy of your credit report. You can get a free credit report from each one of the 3 big credit bureaus, or you can view them through the major reporting sites. All of the links will be in the description below if you're not able to find one of these. Then another option is to download an app like Credit Karma, and you can see all the late payments that you've had in recent years. But they may not be 100% correct. So once you get your reports, just make sure you highlight, circle, and number them so it's easier to refer to them in your letter. Now you want to make 2 copies of these. one for the credit bureau and one for yourself. When trying to decide which late payment you want to remove, it is best to start working from the oldest ones first, rather than the recent ones. I would not suggest trying to remove a late payment that was just reported within the past 30 to 60 days, unless you clearly know it is wrong, just due to the fact that these would be more difficult, since most likely the creditor already has your payment history fresh in their system. So the key here is to start oldest to newest. Once you know which late payment that you want to dispute, now let's move on to what you need to do first before disputing. So before you intend to file the dispute, there are some things that you have to do first. To make this process as quick as possible, you're going to need some documents ready inside of the letter as well. This will be a copy of your driver's license or any form of government ID, proof of address, and if possible, bank statements or account records showing that the payment was made or applied incorrectly. Each one of these credit bureaus may require different forms, so it's best to Google these companies to see what they require, so you don't waste any time sending letters back and forth. So once you have an idea of what paperwork you do need, the next step is to clean up your personal information. Whenever you're filing a late payment dispute, the first thing the credit bureau is going to do is compare the account details with the personal information they already have on file. The reason why they do this is because they have a collection of identifying data that they can search with just a click of a button. But the thing is, you want the credit bureaus to do the dirty work. They need to be able to verify that the late payment was reported correctly, on the right account, under the right dates, and under the right circumstances. Personal information clean up the first company or record source that usually ties into your credit profile is your personal identifying information. If this is your first time hearing about that, don't be surprised because the majority of people never think about this part. Your credit profile can include previous addresses, name variations, employment history, and other personal details that may be attached to the accounts on your report. Some of that information can be outdated or wrong. So once you go into your credit reports, you can review your personal information and dispute outdated addresses, misspelled names, and incorrect employers. One thing to keep in mind is that when you're trying to remove late payments, you want as little extra data linked to those accounts as possible. If they are unable to easily match bad data back to you, that can sometimes help strengthen your dispute. So when exactly should you clean this up? It is best to clean it up before you send your dispute letters. Pretty much for most things that require a dispute strategy, you want your personal details to be current and accurate first. But in the meantime, I would keep reviewing your reports for any outdated personal information and remove what doesn't belong. Account history review so, now what you want to do next is review the full account history. Again, this is probably another part that you might be hearing for the first time today, but this is just another area where creditors make mistakes. The three biggest players in the credit game are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. But the actual late payment data usually comes from the creditor that furnished the account. This means you want to compare how that same account is reporting across all three bureaus. If one bureau says the account was current and another says it was 30 days late, that matters. If one bureau shows a different date, that matters. If one bureau shows missing payment history, that matters. So what you want to do here is go line by line and look for inconsistencies. Once you're on your reports, all you got to do is compare the account status, payment history grid, balance, and reporting dates. The reason why you want to do this is that when a creditor is going to be defending that late payment, you want them to have to explain every inconsistency. This is just one less thing that you have to worry about. Goodwill letters and direct disputes, the next one that I want to talk about, is the goodwill letter. Again, this is probably another tactic that you heard for the first time today. There have been numerous accounts where people had a real hardship, missed one payment, got back on track, and then got the creditor to remove the late payment as a courtesy. With goodwill letters, your goal is not to argue that the account isn't yours. Your goal is to ask for forgiveness based on your history, your explanation, and your current standing. Depending on which creditor you have, this will dictate the likelihood of getting approval for a goodwill adjustment, so it would be best to try this too. But if you have no choice, which means the creditor refuses to help you directly, then you might as well dispute it with the credit bureaus if there are any errors or inconsistencies, because you can still challenge incorrect reporting the same way you would any other item. I feel like you should only rely on a goodwill letter alone if the account is accurate and you're simply asking for a one-time exception. The reason why creditors sometimes grant these requests is because customer retention and goodwill matter. So now you guys have identified which late payments you want to remove, and you cleaned up your information, reviewed the account history, and gathered your documents. Now, let's move on to the next step. There will be two ways that you can do this. You can either do it by mail or electronically through the credit bureau's website. So is one better than the other? Well, it really depends on how comfortable you are with computers. Honestly, if you're pretty tech savvy and you know how to use a computer fine and plug in your information, then you should totally be fine doing it online. If not, the old school way of sending a letter works the same way as well. How to send a letter so, let me go through the first way, sending a letter. So down in the description below, I'll link a letter template that you can use for free. So once you download the letter template, you can just plug and play the information of the credit bureau and your own personal information. I know that other YouTubers actually charge you for this letter, but this is totally free if you just do a quick Google search. But before you send this letter, just make sure you attach all the required paperwork that the credit bureau will need, just to expedite the process. The last thing you want to do is have repeated back and forth letters, because this is going to delay the process so much longer. So where you would find this information is by doing a quick Google search. But I'm trying to over-deliver the value you get from this video, so I'm going to post the links in the description below so you guys can check it for yourself. But for example, here are some documents that you may need. You need a copy of your driver's license or another photo ID, proof of address, copies of account statements, proof of payment, and any supporting records with your name on them. There are many other options of documents that you can provide as well, so just make sure that you send the correct ones. Alright, so by now you guys should have your letter, a copy of your credit report, and all the personal identifying paperwork that I just mentioned inside of this letter. Now what you want to do next is to send this letter to the company by certified mail. Again, make sure that it is certified mail. The key reason on why you want to send it by certified mail is to make sure that companies actually receive this letter. The last thing you want to hear is that they lost all the paperwork and that you need to resend everything. That is why it's good to have a copy of everything that you sent them and have a paper trail that you can fall back on. Once you send them the letter, you should probably hear a response back within the next 30 days. If you have not, then you should just follow up with them just to make sure that they are processing the dispute. How to dispute online so. Now let's move on if you were to do this online. If you were to go this route, this will have the quickest turnaround since everything is done electronically. So let me give you an example if you were to do this online. Whichever credit bureau that you want to dispute, the process is going to be very similar. So let's go with Experian. So now go to Google and search Experian late payment dispute. I'm not going to go into the details because this is pretty self-explanatory. Once you have done that, this will bring you to a new window of where you can start your new dispute. So now this will go on to the sections that you want to dispute, but you want to mainly focus on the account history or payment history section. So once you review this list, just double check if you are able to do a dispute online, because sometimes you're not able to do it online. If that is the case, you either have to call them or just resort to sending them a letter in the mail. Now, once you've decided which late payment that you want to dispute, just make sure that you indicate the reason on why you want to. Maybe the payment was made on time. Maybe it was applied incorrectly. Maybe the reporting is inconsistent. Maybe the creditor failed to verify it properly. Then all you got to do next is just submit all the information, and you just got to wait until it plays out. I have heard many cases where individuals were able to get their disputes resolved within days, or even faster. The great thing about doing disputes online is that you have live tracking where you can see the whole process. If you were to send a letter in the mail, they may provide you with information and an account where you can register online and actually see the whole process of your dispute as well. If all goes well, the late payment is removed from your credit report, and now you have a jump of points to your credit score. Alright guys, so that pretty much does it for me. If you guys got some value from this video, just make sure you give this video a like, because that really helps support the channel. And if you want to hang out with me some more, check out my videos over here.